Do I want to get an abortion or do I want to keep the child? Yes, I do want to keep the child. And I know you're going to tell me it's a struggle. Very welcome back to your girl channel, and today we're going to do something a little different. And I also ordered from Uber Eats, and I'm going to show you what I got. And it's very good, and it's also vegan as well. I have my Raw Girl juice. You know, I'm a girl, fan of juice. And this one is the Green Love Bomb. This is also very delicious and not too sweet. So if you don't like something that's not that sweet, you probably ain't gonna like it. But I do have other option that is sweet. So anywho, I have something sweet, you guys. I have this right here. This is, I don't want to say the wrong thing. This is blackberry, blueberry, and raspberry cobbler. And this is very, very delicious to me. It is. And I also have this right here. It's like a salad. And this is sweet potatoes. And it has spinach and other roasted maple glazed sweet potatoes. And it has pecan in here as well. And it's also good. So you must try. It's really, really good and very healthy. And I haven't ate anything this morning after I dropped my kids off at school. So let's get into the topic, and while we doing that, I'm going to drink on mine. Guys, so let's get into the story. I ended up getting pregnant at the age of 18, and I told my mom that, you know, I was pregnant, and she kind of was disappointed in me. Well, she was disappointed in me. So I was living with my mom at the time of me being pregnant and after I gave birth. So when I gave birth in October 2008 to my son, I went back to my mom's house, and a few weeks later, less than 6 weeks, I ended up getting into an altercation with my mom. And I ended up leaving the home to just cool off for that day to go to my sister-in-law home. And when I came back to my mom's house, my clothes and my son's clothes was outside her home. So I'm like, hey, she kicked us out. And my sister-in-law, without any questions, was like, hey, you can come and live at my house. It's no problem at all. We got food. We got anything you need is in there. So I'm like, you know what? I was so thankful, but I was so hurt at the fact that I was kicked out. But it was just like a learning process for me. So I ended up getting kicked out of my mom's house, going to my sister-in-law home. And, you know, she provided food and shelter for me, but I did not want to, you know, take food that she worked hard for. So I'm like, hey, I must provide food for myself because my son was under 6 weeks, so he didn't have to eat, you know, solid food. And then I was breastfeeding, so it was a must that I eat healthy because I was breastfeeding as well. So I lived with her within 2 months or maybe less. And then I ended up getting approved for a Section 8 home or house or apartment. It was an apartment. So I ended up getting approved for it, and I ended up, you know, going there, and I was just so happy and blessed to have somewhere to stay. And remind you, I was so young. I was not knowledgeable about a lot of things. So, you know, I was excited, but also scared at the same time because it's my first apartment, and I wasn't really sure of how to go about doing a lot of things. But it was a learning process for me. So, anywho, we ended up living at that apartment. And a year later, I ended up getting pregnant with my daughter. And a year later, I ended up getting pregnant again. And at this time, you know, I was going through not really having funds to, you know, pay my light bill. So I ended up calling MLGW to make an extension on my light bill. And when I called, the lady was like, you know, your lights are off. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, no, my lights are off, not off. And she was like, your lights are supposed to be off. Is your lights off, ma'am? And I told her, no. I don't know why I lied and said that my lights was off. I'm like trying to be slick and be like, okay, if they forgot to come out to cut it off, you know, I ain't gonna say nothing. I'm trying to leave it on as much as possible until I'm able to pay it. So, I supposed to make a payment arrangement, right? So within maybe a week or two, they came out and cut the lights off. So I'm like, hey, I did pay something on it, but then I'm like calling like why they cut my lights off. And she was like, ma'am, you have $1,000 fine on your light bill because your lights are supposed to be off, but they was on. And I'm telling her like they never cut it off. So how is that my fault? But I was charged for $1,000 because it's supposed to be off. So I said it was off, but it was on, so it made it seem like I, ended up cutting my lights on, which wasn't the case. So I ended up leaving that apartment because I'm like, hey, we can't sit here in the dark. And I didn't have the funds at the time to pay $1,000 and plus my light bill. So I'm like, I can't do it. So we left. So when you under Section 8, your lights cannot be off more than 3 days. And if it is, you end up getting evicted. So, well, that's the information I was told. So I ended up leaving and living with his family. And, it was altercation, of course, because of different issues. When you're living with someone, it's always going to be some type of altercation. Because, first of all, their privacy and, you coming into their home and stuff like that. But one thing for sure, I made sure that I had my own stuff, my own food for me and my kids, my own soap or whatever I need, anything personal, or my own cleaning supplies so I can clean whatever at their home. So anywho, that happened. So I'm like, you know what? It's probably time for us to go back to our home or whatever and pay this bill. So we end up paying the bill. And believe it or not, I end up going back to the apartment and I was not evicted. But I got a letter saying that I was in the process of getting evicted. I'm like, oh Lord. I'm like, I didn't even know. This was like months that I left this house and I wasn't evicted. And I don't know what they did, but I was blessed to not get evicted. So I'm like, okay. So when I went to the mailbox to check, my mailbox to see what mail I have, I found out that I was getting evicted. So I'm like, okay, I can't go back there. So I end up going back to where I was, which is family place. And then my mom called me and was like, you have a check here. So I ended up getting a check from MLGW. Ain't this crazy? I ended up getting what I paid back. Well, some of it what I paid back. So that was a blessing. So anywho, even though I got that money back, I still wasn't able to go back to that place. So I'm like living with other people in his family. I'm like, you know what? It's time for us to really get our own place. I didn't try to get Section 8. I didn't even try again. I was like, you know what? We're going to have to pay rent. We're going to have to pay light bill. We're going to have to do all this stuff or whatever. Because, I don't want to keep going through this. I don't want to continue to be homeless. Homeless to me is not having your own place, meaning you living with someone. So that means you're homeless in my eyes. It's my opinion. So with that being said, I'm like, my kids can't be children. They can't make any noise, even though no one didn't have any problems with my kids making any noise. So most of the people we was living with had children. But I did not want my children making any noise. I didn't want them to complain about anything. So I tried my best to not give them a reason to complain about anything. So I'm like, my kids can't be kids. They have to sit here. They got to be quiet. Even the baby have to be quiet, not make no noise, not cry, because, they make noise. So I'm like, they have to be like a robot. They have to be standing there still and not making no noise. I'm like, this is not the life I want for my children. So all that struggle that I went through dealing with other people and things that they have done to us, I'm like, you know what? It's time for us to get on our feet, but not come back to this. You know what I'm saying? We cannot come back to this because we'll end up getting a place, paying rent, end up getting kicked out or whatever the reason. Well, we haven't got kicked out, but we end up leaving because we wasn't able to pay the rent for the next month or whatever. So we end up living with someone else, or something just happened. We just end up going back to being homeless. I'm like, I can't continue to do this with my family. It's not fair. Like, I was even pregnant. I was pregnant with one of my children, and I ended up walking to work, steel-toe boots, 6 months pregnant. And I had family that lived like 5 minutes from me, didn't want to help me out or take me to work. And even though I understand that wasn't their problem, but the fact of it is that I was pregnant and you didn't even try to help me out of taking me to work or anything. And I was 6 months pregnant, walking to work, steel-toe boots. It probably took me maybe 30 minutes, 25 minutes to even make it to work. And I did these at early in the morning, like early in the morning. And he did too. He would go to work with steel toe boots as well and walk. And I knew it was a struggle for him, and I did it too. And it was a struggle for me. So I went through a lot of people that was supposed to be my family didn't allow me and my kids in their homes. Even though I'm not saying that they had to, but I'm just saying they did not help me at all with my children, or had anywhere for stay. I had to stay with his family. And that was kind of odd. Like, I'm living with my kids, with his family. And that was a burden on him, I'm thinking, because it's his family. And he taking his family with his family. In my own, and they're looking like, why she can't go to her own family? It was a good question. I couldn't go to my own family. So I ended up walking to work in steel toe boots. And also one time I ended up going to work, and these two guys got out the car and they were trying to take me. And that right there was a lot. So I was end up waiting on a bus stop, and they saw me, and then they was in a vehicle. One of them got out the car, they got behind me, and the other one parked right there, so I couldn't leave out. I couldn't leave out if I went left or right. So he stopped right there, like he was right here and I was right here, and the other person behind me. So thank God it was the bus that had came, and I ended up running across the street and trying to get to the bus. I'm like, oh my God, these folks are gonna try to take me. So that right there had scared me to death. The lady that I trust, she ended up was telling me, hey, you may want to go to this guy right here. He has a home for rent. He'll probably let you and your children stay there. And I'm like, okay. So I get there, right? She drove me there. And she left. She didn't come in with me. She left. And I had my son with me at the time. And so I get there, and the guy telling me to do things to him every day in order to live there. And he was trying to make a move, and I had my son there. I felt disgusted. I felt a lot of things. I felt embarrassed. I felt nasty. It was just a lot of feeling. I can't even tell you how I felt. But I did not like the experience. Then I didn't even have my phone with me. This lady left me here with no phone or nothing. Then my son here. Thank God I have my son, because I think that's the only thing that protected me at the time. So she ended up coming back, and I didn't say nothing to her while I was in the car. I'm like, how dare you? I trust you. And you end up doing this to me. So I ended up telling somebody in my family, 2 people, maybe more than 2 people, that this happened to me. And they was like, well, you don't got nowhere to go, so you want me to take you to the shelter? I mean, do I want them to take me to the shelter? And they didn't even ask me to take me in with my children. Like, I can take you to the shelter. They took me to the shelter. I fill out the forms and everything, but I didn't go. She was like, well, just go. And they probably, by you staying there a few months or a few days, they probably give you a house. I know this for a fact. That wasn't true. So you rather have me in a shelter than helping me. Then even people, I'm going to tell you this right here. I asked people to take me to the store to get my child pamper, even though they didn't have to. So I said, hey, and I was already around them anyway. I said, hey, you mind take me to go get my baby some Pampers? They was like, well, you have to give me $20 gas money. And I was like, I only have $20 to give my baby Pampers. Well, that ain't my problem. They killed me. How dare you? That ain't my problem. I need my gas money. I'm like, okay. So after everybody I knew talked about me, said false things about me, false rumors about me, spread these rumors to people, then I be in these people's face, and I don't have the energy to tell them the full story, or I shouldn't. I'm not gonna do that. It's not worth me telling you my full story. Why? You're not helping me. But then I'm getting false information. People talking about me. Like, how dare you spread those rumors about me? But even though all these people did all these things to me, I never told these people secrets. I never told what really happened. I never told. And it's crazy. So I'm like, you know what? Okay. This is just God telling me that I need to cut these people off. Even though I'm not asking them to help me, but you shouldn't be talking about me either, because you have your own thing going on. And y'all ain't doing nothing but making false information. Then I had his family talking about me. Then I had my own family talking about me. I'm like, Lord, I don't got time for this. I don't have time for this. But his family did take me in, but my family didn't. They didn't. And then people even end up calling social services on me. Like, how dare you try to take my children from me? We was a family. We was taking care of our kids. We just was homeless, and we was trying to find our way. And we didn't have people to help us, to guide us. Okay, y'all didn't do this and do that. We probably had, like, I'm gonna say 2 people, one from his side and one from mine. That's all. I'll be honest with you. I didn't have no friends at the time, so I didn't have no friends to tell me, but Keisha this, and then they probably was going through their own, so they was young too. So it was a learning experience. It taught me not to go back, because God can't place you back there. We did. So with that being said, I went through a whole lot of struggles with people talking about me, but it only made me stronger because, for one, I know how to hold my head up high. I know to move forward. I know when to close my mouth. I know when to open my mouth. Because sometimes you don't need to say anything. Sometimes you just need to let God do his work. And sometimes God may be trying to have you to see something. One thing my auntie always told me, if you always put your kids first, God will be right there. And I will tell you, God has been right there, because I am blessed to have my children at the age that I had them, because they push me to be a better person. Even though I still have struggles, but my faith is stronger. And I couldn't imagine my life without my children. They make me who I am. They push me. And I love them. That love that I receive from my children is a different love. And either being in a relationship, you get a different love. If having kids, you get a different love. Parents with their children, it's a different love. So God gave me to experience a different type of love. And I experienced those things with my children as well. And it's a blessing. And for us to be a whole family person, this man to still be here taking care of his kids, that was a blessing. He still was there to push me along the way, was a blessing. So many people try to dictate my relationship, try to, take that from me being a mom. Like, she got all those kids and all that, because I have 5 kids. And true, I did have them young. I had them back to back, but it made me stronger. I will not regret anything that I went through, because it made me stronger. It made me look at people different. And I know that God can take whatever you got going and put you back into that struggle. And everybody will have a struggle. Everybody experiences a struggle throughout their life. We all go through it at a different time. And in those struggles, the point is somebody to be there for you. I'm not saying give them your money. I'm saying to give them courage and encouragement words, to tell them, you should do it this way and that way. By saying don't get pregnant, you saying it, but when it happened, what do we do next? And if the child don't listen, it's a whole different thing. But I'm just saying, when you see people going through a struggle, when I see people going through a struggle, I remind them it's going to be okay. Because I'm not going through what you're going through. But if you have faith in God and put all you need to do into your children, God will guide you through the way. I remember when I did get kicked out, one time my mom did allow me in her home, but I went in her home more than a month, maybe 2 weeks at the most. And I seen these hands like this. My hands ugly. I seen these hands go like this. And I was like, what was that? God saying, I'm here. It's going to happen. I had dreams, visions, because I always had visions throughout my life. I ended up having dreams and visions about, and I had faith in it. God showed me at my most vulnerable time, you will do better. And I believed that. But you still will have struggles. So don't believe it's a perfect picture. It's not. You still are going to have struggles, but you still going to have faith, because your faith is tested every time. So I learned those things. So I'm telling you guys, if you're going through a struggle, it's going to be okay. And if you having kids at a very early age, get your stuff together. Prove it for yourself that you can do better, not for other people. And continue to have faith. And it's going to be okay. You have to push. By you sitting there not doing nothing, nothing's going to happen. But by you having faith and keep praying and keep pushing to do better, it's going to happen for you. It reminds you, you can be good today, but God can take you back to that struggle tomorrow. So I'm going to give you one tip. Do not close people out. If you're done with people, be done with them. Love them from a distance. Still be open to them. But just be done with them from a distance, because you don't know who you may need. You don't know. Because you may need somebody. And then when they keep showing themselves to you, even though they being mean, I'm so sorry. But I'm going to close this video. And I just want to encourage anybody, if you're going through a struggle, that it's okay. It's okay. If you're going through a struggle, it's okay. You will get through this. Just have faith. Keep pushing. Don't just sit there in one spot and think it's just going to be handed to you. Keep pushing. And those people that's talking about you, God is showing you who's there for you and who's not there for you. You just have your eyes open so you can see those things. People going to do the worst to you. They're going to drag your name. God going to put you through the test. Because, baby, when I tell you I've been through a lot, but I'm going to do a part 2 because there's so much other stuff I want to tell you, but it's not about anybody else. I'm telling my story. Only mine, what I experienced after I got my home, what I went through. So I'm going to give y'all the information, but before we close it, if you have not subscribed, subscribe now. If you have not like now. And I really hope that y'all enjoy this video. I really hope that it really helped somebody out there. It's just that you know that you're not alone. I really hope it helps somebody. I'm doing this video to help somebody. So if you want to come in and tell me your story or share any information, most definitely do that. Comment below, and I promise you I will comment.